You've probably been told your whole life that touching yourself was something shameful, something childish, or something you were supposed to grow out of as you got older. But here's the truth that almost no man over 60 is ever told. Self-pleasure isn't just about desire. It's one of the most overlooked keys to keeping your circulation alive, your hormones balanced, and your confidence strong as you age. My name is Dr. Sophia Jain, and I've spent more than 2 decades as a physician working with men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who believed their best years were behind them. They thought their struggles with fatigue, fading erections, poor sleep, or low mood were just part of getting older. What they didn't know is that the way they had been masturbating, or worse, avoiding it altogether, was quietly contributing to the decline they feared was inevitable. Today, I'm going to tell you about one common mistake most men over 60 make when it comes to masturbating. A mistake that doesn't just affect performance in the bedroom, but your heart, your prostate, your brain, and even how long you live. And before we finish, I'll also show you what to do differently, because your body isn't broken, it's simply been trained in the wrong direction. And with the right steps, you can retrain it. Now let me be direct. When a man engages in self-pleasure without awareness, rushing through the motions, squeezing too hard, using the same motion over and over again, what he's really doing is training his nervous system into dysfunction. I've had men come to my office and whisper things like, "I can't finish anymore unless I do it in a certain way," or "I barely feel anything now," or even, "It's like my body has forgotten how to respond." They look defeated, ashamed, and convinced that something inside them has died. But here's the good news. Most of the time, their body isn't failing them. It's simply been rewired by years of repetitive, mechanical habits. Think of it like exercise. If you only ever do one movement in the gym, the same set, the same weight, the same motion, eventually your body adapts and stops improving. Worse, it may even lose flexibility in other areas. Masturbation works the same way. When it becomes rushed, mindless, and overly dependent on one narrow form of stimulation, your brain learns to expect only that. And over time, you lose sensitivity, you lose natural arousal, and eventually, you lose the very circulation that keeps you healthy. I want you to pause and let that sink in. This isn't just about sex. Erections are a circulation event. They are one of the clearest indicators of how healthy your blood vessels are, how responsive your nervous system is, and how much nitric oxide your body is producing. When that function declines, it isn't just a bedroom issue. It's often a warning sign of deeper cardiovascular decline. That's why so many cardiologists will tell you that erectile dysfunction is an early marker for heart disease. So when older men tell themselves, "It doesn't matter, I don't need that anymore," they're missing the bigger picture. Your body isn't asking you for pleasure out of vanity, it's asking you to keep your circulation alive. Let me tell you about a man I once worked with. His name was Richard. He was 67, widowed, and he admitted he hadn't touched himself in years. He thought abstaining made him more dignified, more disciplined. But what he didn't realize was that his prostate was becoming congested, his testosterone was plummeting, and his blood flow was declining. He came to see me not because of a sexual problem, but because he was waking up 5 times a night to urinate, his energy was gone, and he felt like his memory was slipping. After some gentle conversation, I asked him when he last ejaculated. He looked at me with surprise, like it was a question no doctor had ever dared to ask. When he finally answered, "Maybe 10 years ago," I knew we had found part of the problem. Within months of reintroducing healthy, mindful self-pleasure, not only did his urinary symptoms improve, but he started to feel alive again. His sleep was deeper, his mood lifted, and he told me he had begun to enjoy looking in the mirror again. The truth is, too many men have been conditioned to feel shame about something their bodies are designed to do. Shame is one of the biggest silent killers I see in men over 60. It creates tension in the muscles, spikes stress hormones, and blocks the release of oxytocin and dopamine, the very chemicals that make you feel connected, happy, and motivated. Think about this. When you were young, self-pleasure probably felt exciting, playful, maybe even rebellious. But somewhere along the line, that excitement was replaced by guilt. You were told it was dirty. You were told it was weak. That message didn't disappear. It got buried in your nervous system, shaping the way you relate to your body even decades later. And the cost of that guilt isn't just emotional, it's physical. Men who carry sexual shame into their later years often show higher rates of anxiety, depression, even cardiovascular disease, not because of the act itself, but because of the stress the shame creates in their bodies. But here's the part that most men don't hear enough. You can reverse this conditioning. The nervous system is plastic, even in your 70s or 80s. That means it can be retrained. You can reawaken sensitivity, restore circulation, and bring back hormonal balance. But it requires letting go of old patterns and approaching self-touch with new awareness. Instead of rushing, you slow down. Instead of numbing yourself with repetition, you explore. Instead of zoning out, you breathe, you pay attention, you reconnect. What this does is retrain your brain to associate arousal with presence, not just mechanics. And over time, that presence activates the very pathways that aging and disuse have been shutting down. I want to be very clear. The danger isn't masturbation itself. The danger is mindless masturbation. The danger is stopping altogether. And the most dangerous mistake of all is believing that this part of your health doesn't matter anymore. It does. In fact, it matters now more than ever because circulation is the lifeblood of your vitality. Without it, every other system, your heart, your memory, your mood, begins to decline faster. With it, you stay sharper, stronger, and more connected to life. And this is only the beginning. In the next section, I'm going to share why stopping self-pleasure completely can actually raise your risk of prostate inflammation, and how regular release, far from being a shameful secret, is one of the simplest ways to protect your health as you age.
Let's talk about something most men never connect to masturbation: prostate health. The prostate is a small gland, about the size of a walnut, sitting just below your bladder. It produces a fluid that nourishes and protects sperm, but more importantly, it relies on regular release to stay clear and healthy. When men stop ejaculating altogether, that gland can become congested. Think of it like a sponge that never gets squeezed out. Over time, fluid builds up, pressure increases, and inflammation begins. This is why many older men who abstain completely end up with prostatitis, which is an infection and inflammation of the prostate. He told me his doctors kept treating the infection, but the problem always came back. When I asked him about his sexual activity, he looked embarrassed and admitted, "I don't do that anymore, haven't in years." I explained to him that abstaining wasn't helping him. It was actually part of the problem. His prostate wasn't being drained, so bacteria and inflammatory fluids had an easier time building up. Within a few months of practicing regular, mindful release, combined with some circulation-boosting exercises, his symptoms improved dramatically. He told me, "Doc, I can't believe something I thought was wrong to do actually saved me." But here's the part men really need to hear. The quality of your release matters just as much as the frequency. That's where the mistake I mentioned earlier comes in. The rushed, tight, mechanical way many men learned to masturbate when they were teenagers does damage over time. It puts excessive pressure on the shaft, decreases sensitivity, and even teaches your nervous system to bypass full arousal. That kind of routine doesn't nourish your prostate. It simply reinforces stress and dysfunction. What your body needs instead is a slower, more relaxed approach that activates circulation instead of blocking it. Think of it this way. Your penis is not just a piece of tissue. It's a vascular organ filled with tiny arteries and veins that respond to relaxation and blood flow. If you grip too tightly, rush too quickly, or tune out mentally, you're actually reducing the very blood flow you want to encourage. This is why so many men over 60 report that they feel less sensation than they used to, or that they struggle to stay aroused without excessive stimulation. It isn't because their body can't feel anymore, it's because they've trained it into numbness. The good news is this can be retrained. Just like stretching a stiff muscle or rehabbing an old injury, you can bring back circulation and sensitivity with consistent practice. And I want to address another common misconception. Some men believe that if they just save it up, they'll be stronger when they finally release. But for older men, the opposite is usually true. Long periods without ejaculation often lead to congestion, poor circulation, and weaker releases. Regular release keeps testosterone in balance, reduces stress, and supports your immune system. In fact, studies have shown that ejaculation increases certain antibodies that help protect you against illness. So not only does healthy self-pleasure improve sexual function, it can also boost overall longevity. Now let's talk about hormones, because this is where most men get blindsided. Testosterone is the lifeblood of male vitality. It fuels your energy, your drive, your strength, even your mood. But what many don't realize is that healthy sexual activity helps maintain natural testosterone rhythms. When men stop stimulating themselves, testosterone levels tend to decline more quickly. On the flip side, when self-pleasure is done in a healthy, relaxed way, it helps your body continue producing testosterone at a steady rate. That means better muscle retention, sharper mental focus, and even improved heart health. I want to tell you about another patient, Martin, who was 65 when he came to me. He had low energy, struggled to concentrate, and felt disconnected with his wife. Blood tests showed his testosterone was lower than expected for his age. Instead of immediately prescribing medication, I asked him about his self-care habits. It turned out he had completely stopped self-pleasuring, thinking it was childish. I encouraged him to reintroduce it, but with new habits, slower, more intentional, combined with deep breathing. 6 months later, his testosterone levels had improved, his energy was back, and he said his relationship with his wife had never felt closer. What changed wasn't just the hormone levels, but his mindset around his body. He went from shame to acceptance, from avoidance to participation, and that shift alone made him feel like a younger man again. So here's what I want you to take from this section. Masturbation is not just a private act. It's a form of exercise for your circulation, your hormones, and your prostate. But the way you do it determines whether it strengthens you or weakens you. The common mistake, mindless, rushed, mechanical masturbation, trains dysfunction. The alternative, mindful, relaxed, intentional self-pleasure, trains health. In the next part, I'll explain how the brain plays into this even more than most men realize, and why the link between arousal and mental focus is the missing key to restoring erections after 60.
Now, let's turn to the brain, because this is where the real control center lives. Most men think erections are strictly physical, all about blood flow, but the truth is, every erection begins in the brain. The brain sends signals through the spinal cord down into the pelvic nerves, which tell the arteries in the penis to open up and fill with blood. If the brain isn't fully engaged, if it's distracted, stressed, or overstimulated in the wrong way, those signals weaken. And without strong signals, circulation doesn't respond. This is why so many men over 60 tell me they can't get aroused without extreme stimulation, or they lose interest halfway through intimacy. It isn't that their body can't respond, it's that their brain has been trained by years of habits. The most damaging of those habits is what I call fragmented stimulation. That's when a man's mind is pulled in 10 different directions while he tries to self-pleasure. Maybe he's rushing, maybe he's scrolling through images, maybe he's not really present with his own sensations. Over time, this breaks the natural feedback loop between the brain and the body. Instead of deep arousal, the nervous system learns shallow stimulation, quick release, and disconnection. One of my patients, Richard, age 68, described it perfectly. He said, "Doc, it's like my brain and body aren't even on the same team anymore." He could get some sensation, but it never built into full arousal. That's because his brain had learned to skim, not to focus. When I worked with him on retraining that brain-body loop, slowing down, breathing, paying attention, he noticed changes within weeks. His erections grew firmer, but more importantly, he felt them in a deeper way. He told me, "I didn't realize how numb I'd gotten until the feeling came back." So what's the science behind this? It comes down to dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. Dopamine is released whenever we anticipate pleasure. The problem is modern habits, especially visual stimulation like endless scrolling, spike dopamine artificially. That makes the brain crave novelty instead of depth.
When men overindulge in quick, fragmented stimulation, dopamine becomes unstable. It spikes, crashes, and eventually desensitizes the receptors. That means you need more and more stimulation just to feel the same effect, while natural arousal with a partner or during relaxed self-pleasure feels weaker. But here's the encouraging part. Dopamine pathways can be retrained. Just like muscles regain strength after injury, the brain regains sensitivity when you change your habits. The key is to reduce fragmented, high-stimulation triggers and replace them with slower, more focused arousal. This allows dopamine to build gradually and steadily, restoring that strong feedback loop between the brain and the body. I tell men to think of it like learning to appreciate music again. If you've been blasting noise in your ears for years, quiet classical music might feel dull at first. But when you train yourself to listen deeply, the richness comes alive. In the same way, when you slow down and give your brain time to engage fully, arousal becomes richer, erections become stronger, and satisfaction lasts longer. Another important factor is stress. Stress is like poison to erections because it floods the body with cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol blocks testosterone, tightens blood vessels, and diverts energy away from reproduction. If your mind is carrying tension, your body won't prioritize arousal. It's wired for survival first, pleasure second. That's why many men notice they can't perform when they're worried about money, health, or relationships. It isn't weakness, it's biology. This is where techniques like deep breathing, meditation, and even simple relaxation practices come in. When you calm your nervous system, you allow arousal signals to travel freely. I often tell men that arousal is like a river. It flows best when there aren't rocks clogging the channel. Stress is the rocks, relaxation removes them. I remember a patient named Dennis, 70 years old, who came to me convinced his best days were behind him. He said intimacy had become frustrating and joyless. When I asked about stress, he admitted he spent most of his day worrying about his heart, about his bills, about his grown children. His mind was constantly racing. I encouraged him to start a simple breathing routine, 10 minutes a day, nothing complicated. At first, he thought it was silly. But within 2 months, he noticed his erections returning more naturally. His wife noticed too. He told me, I didn't realize my stress was blocking me more than my body. Now let's tie this back to the common masturbation mistake. When a man rushes through release with tight grip and scattered attention, he's training his brain into shallow arousal, fragmented dopamine spikes, and stress-driven habits. Over years, that weakens his circulation, his sensitivity, and his confidence. But when he changes the approach, when he slows down, focuses his attention, breathes, and allows arousal to build naturally, he retrains his brain and body to work together again. That is the true key to restoring strong, lasting erections after 60. And here's something many men never hear. Pleasure itself is medicine. When you experience deep pleasure, your brain releases endorphins, oxytocin, and nitric oxide, all of which lower stress, open blood vessels, and support heart health. In other words, the very thing most men feel guilty about is one of the most powerful tools for longevity they have. The trick is doing it in a way that nourishes, not depletes. So, if you've been struggling, if you've felt disconnected, if you've worried that age has taken something from you, I want you to know this. It isn't too late. Your body is incredibly adaptable. Your brain is still capable of change, and your circulation can be restored with the right habits. But it starts with letting go of the old mistake and embracing a new way of connecting with yourself. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into practical steps, specific strategies you can start using today to rebuild circulation, restore sensitivity, and reclaim the vitality you thought you lost. Now, let's get practical. I want to give you clear, actionable steps you can take starting today to undo years of poor habits and strengthen your circulation, sensitivity, and overall vitality. Remember, this isn't about quick fixes. It's about retraining your body and mind to work the way they were designed to. The first step is what I call the slow practice. Instead of rushing through stimulation in a few minutes, set aside a little more time, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes. The key is to move slowly,
Breathe deeply and focus on sensation instead of racing toward release. Think of it like physical therapy for your nervous system. You're teaching your body to relax, your arteries to open, and your brain to engage more fully. The men who adopt this simple change often notice stronger erections within weeks. The second step is grip awareness. Many men, especially as they get older and worry about performance, unknowingly squeeze harder and harder during self-pleasure. This conditions the penis to expect high levels of pressure, which reduces sensitivity during intimacy. The solution is to use a lighter touch, closer to what you'd feel during partnered intimacy. It may feel less intense at first, but over time your sensitivity returns and you'll notice you don't need as much pressure to feel aroused. That means better circulation and more natural erections. The third step is breathing. I know it sounds simple, but most men hold their breath when they're aroused. This increases tension, restricts oxygen, and tells your body you're in a stress state. By breathing slowly and deeply, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and restore state where erections thrive. Try inhaling deeply through the nose, then exhaling slowly through the mouth. If you keep your breath steady during arousal, you'll notice a calmer mind, a stronger erection, and more lasting power. Another strategy is movement. Erections depend on good circulation, and circulation depends on healthy arteries and active muscles. If your lifestyle is mostly sedentary, your pelvic floor muscles and lower body blood vessels become sluggish. That's why exercises like walking, squats, and pelvic floor training are so powerful. They pump blood into the region that matters most. Even 5 to 10 minutes a day of focused movement can make a difference. One of my patients, Tom, age 72, told me he had given up on intimacy because nothing seemed to work. He tried pills, he tried supplements, but nothing lasted. When I looked at his lifestyle, I saw the problem. He spent most of his day sitting, barely moving. His arteries weren't getting the signals they needed to stay flexible. I put him on a simple walking routine combined with gentle pelvic floor exercises. Within 3 months, he reported stronger morning erections and more confidence in the bedroom. He said, "I thought I needed medication, but really, I just needed movement." Now let's talk about diet, because what you put into your body every day shapes your circulation. The old script mentions certain foods, and I agree, nutrition is vital. Foods rich in nitrates like leafy greens and beets help open blood vessels. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish and nuts keep arteries flexible. Antioxidants from berries protect against damage. And one of my favorites, dark chocolate, in moderation, increases nitric oxide production, which is essential for erections. If you want to restore blood flow, your grocery list matters more than you think. Hydration is another overlooked factor. Blood is mostly water, and if you're dehydrated, your blood becomes thicker, making it harder to flow into the penis. Many men don't realize they're chronically dehydrated. By simply drinking enough water throughout the day, you support smoother circulation and better function. But the most important piece is consistency. Too often, men try a tip or a supplement for a few days and expect miracles. The body doesn't work that way. Just like you can't go to the gym once and expect big muscles, you can't change one habit and expect lifelong erections. What works is steady, daily practice. Small changes, repeated over time, lead to lasting results. Now, some men ask me, "Dr. Jain, is it really possible to restore what I had in my 20s?" My answer is this. While your body at 60 or 70 isn't identical to your 20-year-old self, it is capable of remarkable renewal. The biggest breakthroughs happen when men shift their mindset from fear to possibility. Instead of saying, "I'm too old," they say, "I'm still capable." That belief fuels the discipline to practice new habits, and the results often surprise them. One man I worked with, Gerald, age 66, came in frustrated and hopeless. He said he had lost all confidence and intimacy with his partner had nearly vanished, but he was willing to try. He committed to slow practice, lighter grip, daily walks, and deep breathing. 6 months later, he returned with a huge smile. His words were, "I feel alive again." Not only were his erections stronger, but his relationship had rekindled in ways he didn't think was possible. His partner told him he seemed younger, more present, more vibrant. That's the power of these changes. And here's something I want every man listening to take to heart. Your body is not broken. It's just waiting for the right conditions to thrive again. When you reduce stress, feed yourself properly, move daily, and stop the damaging mistake of rushed, tense, disconnected self-pleasure, you create those conditions. Blood flows more freely, sensitivity returns, and confidence rebuilds itself. Now we've talked about habits, diet, and exercise, but there's another piece many men overlook: connection. Human beings are wired for intimacy, not just release. When you share touch, eye contact, and affection with a partner, your body releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Oxytocin calms the nervous system, lowers blood pressure, and enhances pleasure. Even if you don't have a partner, you can cultivate connection through touch, presence, and mindful awareness. This turns intimacy into something nourishing, not depleting. As we move into the final part, I'm going to show you how to bring all of these pieces together into a simple daily routine, something you can follow step by step to rebuild your vitality and circulation starting right now.
Let's bring everything together now into a daily plan that any man over 60 can follow. Think of this as your roadmap, a simple set of practices that support blood flow, restore sensitivity, and rebuild confidence. Morning is where it all begins. When you wake up, drink a tall glass of water before anything else. This jumpstarts your circulation, hydrates your body, and thins your blood so it flows more freely. Next, spend just 5 minutes moving your body. Gentle stretches, squats, or even a brisk walk around the block. This wakes up your muscles, activates the pelvic floor, and signals your arteries to open. After movement, fuel your body with a circulation-friendly breakfast. Something like oatmeal with berries and walnuts, or eggs with spinach and avocado. The key is nutrient-dense foods that support nitric oxide, antioxidants, and healthy fats. These are the building blocks of stronger arteries and better erections. Now, here's a practice most men have never tried but find incredibly powerful: mindful breathing. Set a timer for 5 minutes, sit comfortably, and breathe in through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 2, and exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 counts. This simple rhythm activates the relaxation response, lowers blood pressure, and primes your nervous system for healthy circulation. It's like charging your erection system for the day. During the day, remember to move. If you sit for long hours, set a timer to stand and walk every hour. Even a couple minutes of movement keeps blood flowing. Think of your arteries like a river. If it sits stagnant, it clogs. If it keeps moving, it stays clear. In the evening, carve out time for intimacy practice. This doesn't have to mean sex. It can be self-pleasure done mindfully. Slow down, breathe, use a lighter touch, and focus on sensation rather than rushing. This retrains your body and rewires your brain. Over time, you'll notice stronger erections, more sensitivity, and less dependence on pressure or speed. If you have a partner, communicate openly. Many men carry shame or embarrassment about changes in their performance, but honesty often brings relief and deeper connection. Your partner likely wants intimacy and closeness just as much as you do. When you approach intimacy as a shared experience rather than a performance test, the pressure drops and real pleasure returns. Before bed, avoid heavy meals, alcohol, or late-night screen time. These disrupt hormones, circulation, and sleep quality. Instead, wind down with light stretching, gratitude practice, or even reading something calming. Deep, restful sleep is when your body repairs, balances hormones, and restores energy. Men who sleep well report more consistent morning erections and improved vitality overall. Now, I want to emphasize this again. The most damaging mistake men make after 60 isn't age itself. It's the pattern of rushing, gripping tightly, and treating self-pleasure as a stress release instead of a health practice. That single mistake weakens circulation, dulls sensitivity, and convinces the brain that arousal requires unnatural levels of stimulation. By breaking that habit, you give your body the chance to work naturally again. The men who make these changes often tell me the same thing. They feel like they've reclaimed not just their sexual health, but their entire life. Energy returns, confidence grows, relationships improve, and even mood lifts. That's because circulation and intimacy aren't isolated. They're tied to overall health. Strong arteries, balanced hormones, and healthy nerves support not only erections, but also heart health, brain function, and longevity. I'll leave you with this. No matter your age, you are not past the point of change. Your body is remarkably adaptable, and with the right habits, it can regenerate in ways that will surprise you. Don't buy into the myth that decline is inevitable. Instead, give your body what it needs: movement, nourishment, relaxation, and mindful intimacy, and watch how it responds. So starting today, commit to small, consistent steps. Drink water in the morning, move every hour, eat foods that support blood flow, breathe deeply, and approach intimacy with patience and awareness. These aren't complicated tasks, but together they can transform your circulation, your performance, and your confidence as a man. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s make these changes and experience results they never thought possible. And I believe the same is possible for you. This is Dr. Sophia Jain, reminding you that your best years are not behind you. With the right mindset and daily habits, your body can thrive, your intimacy can deepen, and your vitality can shine brighter than ever.